Welcome back. In this video, we'll start creating the pickups. Now, to create a pickup, we're just going to make a simple cube that's going to be floating in space. And then to make it a little bit more exciting, we're going to give it a rotation. To do that, let us create another game object. And we're going to create another cube. So I'm going to go to 3D Objects, Cube. And then that will bring in our cube. Now, it's a little on the large side because it's about the same size as our sphere. So I'm just going to zoom in on that, pressed F there just to zoom in. And I'm just going to make sure we're not on ISO anymore, that we're on 3D. There we go. That makes it a little bit better. And let's just sort of reduce the size. So I think about half on all the scales should be fine. You'll notice there's this little chain thing. If you turn that on, if I make that 0.5, whoops, 0.5, all the rest do 0.5 as well. So just makes it a little bit faster there. And so then we can place it. Now the X and Z coordinate doesn't really matter as long as it's in the play field. But we can sort of set the Y value, the height, probably to just above the ground. What we would need to make sure is that we can actually contact it with it. So actually maybe even 0.5 might be better. We can play around with that later. Again, you might want to add a material to this. So simply generate a new material. You become an expert at this. So materials, I'm going to just go for a simple red on this one. There we go. Okay, good enough. And maybe give that a name too. I neglected to give that a name, so while I'm at it here, that would be the wall material. I'm not being consistent with my names, I'm just noticing, but that's okay. And then this one, I'll call this the pickup. Okay, good. So that's done that, and I'm just going to throw that on there. And so we've got this red pickup. Now, if we go and play the game here, obviously it's not going to pick up. Just giving it a name, pickup, which I actually haven't named it properly, isn't going to actually do anything. I need to put some functionality into it, and that will be through the coding there. So at the moment, it's just sort of sitting there, and I can hit it. There's a collider on it, but that's all that's going on. It obviously doesn't pick up. So let's, before we get any further, make sure we rename that. I'm just going to call it pickup. And then what we're going to do is add a script to it. So to make it a little bit more enticing, I guess, we're going to get it to rotate, kind of like a Mario coin that would sort of rotate just to attract the user's or the player's attention. So let's jump back into the scripts folder. And we've got our 2 scripts already. Let's create a third script, create, and a C# script. And this one we will call rotator. Good. So make sure you name it first. Always get into that habit of naming it first and then opening up your scripts. This one's going to be a very, very simple sort of script, basically just one line of code, and we're just going to get it to rotate over top of each other, sort of flip itself. And so I'm going to come into the update. We don't have to worry about changing this to fixed update because it's not going to do with physics. It's just going to rotate it. And I'm going to do transform. So we're grabbing that transform dot rotate. And then you can see there's the X, Y, and Z. And to get it to rotate, we'll do 15, 30, and 45. And that will give us a nice sort of rotation there. And actually, I need to do a little bit more. Sorry, I've just got new vector 3. There we go. And then like that. And then what I'm going to do here is, I think this is going to work out, times time dot delta time. There we go. And what time dot delta time does, and we actually should have done this to the, yeah, so I think I've got a little bit of a problem here. Let me just see. Let's see if this works. Perfect. So yeah, it just needs to go inside the parentheses there. Time dot delta time is time is sort of like the library time, and delta time is how much time has passed. What it does there is allows us to almost use like a regular clock to monitor how fast this should be rotating. Like I said, we're going to actually do this to the player as well. The trouble is every computer, every device could run the game at a slightly different speed. And so what you end up with is a game, you might have a really fast computer and the game is going to run extra fast. You might have a slower computer, the game is going to run slower. So to try to maintain sort of consistency across devices, what we do is we multiply this by time.delta time. So the rotation on this device of this object is going to be the same as the rotation on another device. So while we're here and we just multiply this by time.delta time, let's do the same thing with the Marble controller, because I forgot to do that before. So I'm going to hit save there, go to Marble controller, and we did time speed, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to try it on the outside here, time.delta time. See if that works. No, so it does need to go into the parentheses. So let's just do that and make sure that that's there. Okay, that will also ensure that the speed is consistent across devices. Save that. Go back to Unity. And in Unity here, we've got our cube. So we need to add that rotator script to it. So I'm just going to drag that on. Script cast cannot be found. Now that's an interesting. This is the one that come up. There's a mismatch. Rotator. What happened there? I thought I was pretty consistent. Rotator. There's no warnings. Did I mess something up there? Rotator.cs. This is an interesting one. Try that again. Can't add script component rotator because script class cannot be found. Make sure there are no compile errors and that the file name and class name match. Now, I'm having an idea here. Just a second. That my script did not update. Oh, it did. Rotator. That is a very unusual error. Just give me a second here to figure this out. Well, I'm back, and I was able to put it on with no problem. I'm not sure what was wrong. Probably because I put the computer to sleep and then came back, and there was some sort of disconnect between the script and the Unity for some reason. So I just shut down Unity, shut down the Visual Studio, and then I was able to reopen them, and it applied with no changes. So there was actually nothing wrong there, just some sort of little glitch that happened, probably because I took a little bit of a break, and when I came back, things weren't working quite as well. All right, so let's just check here, and if I hit play, hopefully that's rotating, and we can see it's sort of tumbling, and then that's the idea. Now, later on, you can modify this, but for the moment, we've just sort of had this placeholder here, and you can just see, like I said, it's just tumbling there. Now, obviously, having just one pickup in our game isn't going to be too useful. Now, I could simply duplicate this, and that would work. I'm going to show you another technique that is very useful, especially when you're going to have multiples of something. And I'm actually going to create a new folder in my assets. I'm going to come over here, create new folder, and I'm going to call this one prefabs. Now, prefab stands for prefabricated, which means pre-made. And this would be something where, especially during the game, you need to bring more and more of these in. And so, for example, if you took some sort of, bullet or missile or something like that, something that you're going to constantly, press the space bar and it's going to instantiate into the game, that would be something that would be excellent as a prefab. Maybe your player might be a prefab. So if your player dies and you want to bring back the player as a prefab, that makes sense. It's pre-made and you just sort of instantiate it or create it into the game. In this case here, it's not a huge issue because really our pickups are already going to be in the game, but you might find it useful and it's good to know as a technique later on. So what I'm going to do is actually grab the pickup that we made, and I'm pretty happy with how it is, and I'm just going to simply grab it and drag it into the folder. And what you'll notice is that it goes into here. Right now it's in my prefabs folder, so click on that, there it is. And you also notice this turns blue here, and that indicates that it's a prefab. What I can do is simply drag more in, okay, and I'll lift them all up later on, so they're just sort of coming in at different heights. I'm not too worried about arranging them. You can be more, I guess, conscious about where they're actually going. I'm just trying to put a few in here. So you notice they're all called pickup 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. That's fine. I'm going to set them all to the same height. So I said 0.5 was pretty good. So if I select all of them, set the Y value, now they're all at the same height. So that's simply fix that. If I hit play, you just notice that they're all rotating. Again, the placement of them, you could do a better job of placing them. What's nice about a prefab is that I could sort of say, oh, I need to change one. And so let's just say I pick this one here. And I say, oh, it's a little too small. I want it a little bit bigger. And so I set that to 0.75. Now it just set the one. So you do have the ability to modify one individually. But what you can also do is under these overrides, change it a little bit here, you can either revert all, so they all go back to the normal, or apply to all. And so what if I did that, then they've all become sort of smaller, or larger, sorry, in this case. And so I was able to sort of change them all. Now my prefab, if I click on my actual prefab here, it's also going to be 0.75. And so all future ones I drag in will be the same. So you still have the ability to change an individual one that's in your game for whatever reason, but you also have the ability to change one and then apply those changes to all of them. And like I said, later on, you might find some use for instantiating them so that, like as you said, as the game progresses, then maybe more appear or whatever the case might be. I think we'll leave this video here. We've got our prefabs in. They're rotating. We need now to pick them up, and we'll do that in the next video.